Wow, what an incredible day. What an incredible day to be here today. Kind of like what John had said earlier, we'd like to know about you. Let us know who you are. Let us know if you'd like for us to get in touch with you today, or have us get in touch with you. You know, I kind of went back and forth on what I wanted to talk about today, what I wanted the sermon to be about today. And if you remember back several weeks ago, the first thing we talked about is that God is always with you, no matter what happens. That was the last thing that Matthew wrote in the book of Matthew, is what Jesus told him. He said, no matter what, I'm going to be with you. And He is. He is no matter what. He's with us. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like He is. And I know there's times that it feels like I'm further away from Him than at other times. And that's when I really have to let my faith kick in. And that's what today's sermon is about, is faith. And that's why the front cover is about living by faith. And what I found is that, well, living by faith, like when I first came here, I saw the basketball hoop outside. And through my faith, I knew that there was going to be a basketball hoop there. And not only that, but we got 2 basketball hoops. And we've got almost a full court basketball out there. And I was thinking, this is great. This is awesome. But it's only by faith. And then I asked, what about our faith? My faith. Is it greater than a mustard seed? I've seen faith in this congregation that's incredible. I read about this church. We are building a relationship with another church, with Wildwood Church. And the pastor came out, I guess it was 2 days ago, and he asked me if I'd ever seen the old church. And I didn't even know where it was. And he goes, I'm not sure either, but I'll go find it and let you know. So I went and I went by the church where it used to be. It's on the corner of 4th and Washington. And there's a plaque there. Interesting. Tells where we started, how we got started, that the settlers came here. They first had services in their houses. And then it kind of expanded. They were sod houses. And I'm going, wow, what faith to start a church. And then what I realized and what I've seen is that this church has had challenges. All along it's had challenges. From 1871 to 1881, this church disappeared. They didn't have any church services. And then in 1881, 2 ministers started passing through, and they started having church services here in Waterloo again. And I'm thinking, that is incredible faith. That this church started, it kind of went away, and it's back. And in I believe it was the 70s, they decided to move from 4th and Washington to come here. And the pastor that was here at the time, in October, he's going to be doing a church service in this church. The pastor that spearheaded this building. And faith, I looked at a lot of different things of faith, and of course, we all believe in Google and what Google says. Thank you. I was going to say that was a joke, but I had to Google it. What is faith? Faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Complete trust and confidence. I've met people here in the neighborhood. I see incredible faith. I see people who've been attacked physically, come close to death. And they're still here. They still fought. They still had faith. What I really like is I like what Hebrews says about faith. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Faith are the things that you don't see. It's not the things that we see, the things that we have, that we can do. For instance, our budget. We know what our money is every month. If our money is $2,000, we know we have $2,000. And we look at our budget and we go, wow, we can just make the bills. You know, God, please, just let me make the bills. That's what you can see. But what about God, give me enough money to help my next door neighbor? God, not only give me enough money to pay off my next door neighbor's mortgage. That's real faith. That's faith that I've seen. It's easy to see what's in front of you, but God has also made promises in the Bible. He's told us things that are going to happen. These are promises that He's made to us, and God doesn't lie. And I think back, I'll share some of those promises with you here in just a minute, but then I think back at some of the things and the people in the Bible. What about Moses? What about Abraham? What about Noah? Moses. Noah. It had never rained on the earth. And God said, build an ark. For what? It had never rained on the earth. Could you imagine if God came down to us? And I believe that God does speak to us. It's whether we hear it or not. Is it that still small voice? It's like Elijah. One time Elijah was being chased and he went and hid in a cave. And God said, Elijah, what are you doing hiding in the cave? You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to go out. That's your job. Carry the word to people. And Elijah said he was scared. He was straight up with God. And God said, go stand in the mouth of the cave. And he did. And there was thunder and there was lightning. He was listening for God, but God wasn't in the thunder and lightning. And then there was an earthquake and mountains fell. And God wasn't inside of the mountains, and there was a rushing of the wind. And all of these things happen, all these big things that we assume happens when God comes around. But what it was once things calmed down, there was a still small voice. And that was God's voice. It's that still small voice. It's that one having faith in that still small voice. You're driving down the street, and I've heard stories of this. I heard a story of a guy that one time he was driving down the street and something told him to go left. And he said, no, I'm going to go right. This is the way I always go. And that still small voice said, go left, don't go right. And he fought it. And so what happened was he went the same way he went. He ended up getting carjacked and beaten up. But it was that still small voice that I sometimes think we don't listen to. How much faith can we have in that still small voice? So Noah went and built the ark. We were just talking about this the other day. Lord, where am I going to get all this wood? Okay, so you want me to build this ark. How am I going to put it together? I've never built an ark before. But he had faith. He had faith beyond what he could see. Okay, God, so how do you want me to bring all these animals? How do you want me to? Do I go out and catch them? Do I go out and bring them in? He didn't worry about that. I'm sure he wondered. But when the time was right, he kept faith. And when the time was right, the animals came. And the people that were supposed to be on the ark came. Think about Moses. I mean, what would happen if God came up and said, okay, I have hundreds of thousands, a million people. I want you to lead out of Omaha. I want you to take them to the promised land. The first thing I would do is what Moses did. Me, that's crisis of belief. Me? You want me to do that? God, I have a speech impediment. I can't hardly even talk without stuttering. But he did it. He maintained faith no matter what. Another thing that I think about is David. King David. He was one of the greatest people in the Bible. Do you realize it was 13 years from when he was anointed until he became king? He had faith in his anointment. You know, he got anointed and went back out into the shepherd's fields. Wow, I just got anointed king. And I'm out here tending sheep. Not only that, Saul came after him and tried to kill him. And there were times that David had the opportunity to kill Saul, but he didn't because he trusted in God and he knew that God put him in power. And he was not going to hurt one of God's anointed. But he kept faith. And look at where it ended up with him. And that's what I'm saying here today. You all have faith, but what are you believing in? The one thing that I found is that the level of my relationship, the closer I get with God in my relationship with Him, the more faith I have, the more I can let go of, the more I can say, God, this is in your hands. I know we have things going on. I know we have family issues, maybe job issues. Maybe we're looking at getting laid off. But we have to have faith. Sure, maybe we're getting laid off. Maybe we have a $20,000, $30,000 a year job. Maybe this still small voice is saying, you know what, I have something better for you. I have something bigger for you. And as long as you stay here, I can't move you. I can't take you to your destiny. And that's what I'm wondering what happens sometimes, is we get so wrapped up in what's going on that we stop having faith or we doubt our faith. And it's easy to do. I do that at times. God, you really want me to do this? God told me one time, as you know, we have a nonprofit, and there were two big piles of rocks. And I wanted these big piles, they're only about this high, I wanted these big piles of rocks moved. And God said, Mike, go get a shovel. I'm like, what? Go get a shovel. Go take the shovel, take your wheelbarrow, and move those rocks. And I went, are you serious? But I did. And I showed up. You realize before I moved one rock, I had a skid loader on my property in front of me. And I went up to the guy on the skid loader and I said, hey, would you mind moving these rocks for me? And he says, sure, no problem. I had faith in that still small voice. I showed up with a shovel to do God's work, and God showed up with the skid loader to do my work. It was incredible. But I listened to that still small voice. I had faith in what God told me. And God does that. He tells us. He even has things in the Bible that He tells us. We have to figure out how much faith we're going to have. How much can we really believe in? Because God's going to take care of us. God said that if I'm going to feed the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, what makes you think I'm not going to take care of you? And God does. He does take care of us. Like I said, there may be some things that we're going through, but we need to keep the faith. Here's some things that God's promised us. In Isaiah 54:10, this is about peace. God's promised us peace. Our God is a God of peace. He's not a God of turmoil. He's not a God that wants to get in and stir up our lives. He wants to move us to a greater destiny, something greater than we could even imagine. I'll tell you what, 8 weeks ago, 2 months, 3 months ago, I could not have imagined this church. I could not have imagined what I found and what I've seen, not only in this congregation, but in Waterloo. It was bigger than I could have ever imagined. So one of the promises that God has made us, Isaiah 54:10, for the mountains shall depart and the hills will be removed, but my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord who has mercy on you. Also in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. No weapon formed against you will prevail. As I look over the congregation, I know things that have happened. I know some things that people have been up against. There's things that people in this congregation are fighting today. But I see your faith. I see your smiles. And that's what's going to beat it. Not going, woe is me. Oh my gosh, I've got a pain in my arm. I've got something going on. We all do. But do you have faith that it's going to pass? God has healing that passes all understanding. He has things going on for us. How about Isaiah 54:14? In righteousness you will be established. Tyranny will be far from you. You will have nothing to fear. If we fear, it's something that we have. It's not what God has instilled in us. Terror will be far removed. It will not come near you. If anyone does attack you, it will not be my doing. If you're attacked, it's not God that's attacking you. It's something else. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. Wow. These are some heavy-duty promises that God's made, and God doesn't lie. It's just whether we believe in His Word. That's why He gave us His Word. Paul had a letter to the Thessalonians reminds us of the Christian. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians reminds me of the Christian church of Waterloo. And keep in mind, Paul had gone through Thessalonica, but he had to leave because not only did some people not accept his teaching, but the Jewish people did not like him being there. They wanted him gone because he was converting people, because people were becoming Christians, because they saw the light, they saw what was going on. And you heard it a little bit earlier today, we ought always to thank God for you, brothers and sisters, and rightly so, because your faith is growing more and more. And the love all of you have for one another is increasing. Therefore, among God's churches, we boast about your perseverance and faith in all the persecutions and trials that you're enduring. Paul didn't spend a whole lot of time in Thessalonica before he left, so he didn't have time to establish the church. People wanted him gone. They wanted him dead. He didn't have time to establish the church. He just had enough time to set it up. But the people in that church had faith, and they kept it together. They had faith in God. They had faith in Jesus and what Jesus had promised us. Mark 11:22-24. Have faith in God, Jesus answered. Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Jesus promised us that. We have to have faith without doubting. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, and this is really important, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And that's the hard part sometimes. We keep believing and we keep believing and nothing happens and nothing happens. The Israelites went around a mountain for 40 years. God, I thought you were going to give us the promised land. But they kept faith in God and they kept going around that mountain. And it said, and it goes on to say, and when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive you your sins also. And this is incredible. Faith is so incredible. Faith is so powerful. But it's up to you. This week as you go out, think about what you have faith in. Is it in your job? Is it in your car? Is it in your house? Or do you have faith in God? Do you have faith that what God promised in the Bible will come to pass? And that's where I put my faith. That's where I put my faith in the Word. I put my faith in the Word of Jesus. I want to leave with you one more thing with you. It's 1 John chapter 5. For whatever is born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that has overcome the world. Our faith. That's what's overcome the world. You will have things come against you. God didn't say that it was going to be easy. God didn't say that it was going to be a free ride and everything was going to be simple. But He did say He was going to be there for you no matter what.
Mike, I have to share, this is my favorite verse on it because you always talk about it being my faith. Okay, if we turn to Ephesians chapter 2, where verse 8, it says, by grace you have been saved through faith, and it's not of yourselves. Faith is a gift of God. God gives you faith, and then He expects you to use it. And I think He gives you maybe a small measure of faith in the beginning, and sees, that you learn how to use it. And then, when it's necessary, He gives you more. But it's a gift of His. It's not something that you dream up out of you, but it's a gift of God.
I agree. And it's how much faith do we exercise?
Right.
How much
do we
faith
use it?
do
But
we
He
share?
gives it. It's not something we just dream up ourselves.
Exactly,
It
and it's
says
right
right
out of
here.
the Word.
It
You
says
read it
right
right
here.
there.
It's not of ourselves. It's a gift of God.
Yes, it
And
is.
so many people and so many pastors have missed that altogether and just leave people thinking that it's their faith, that they have to conjure up. But no, it's not. It's a gift.
You're right, it is a gift from God, but I've also seen people not use that gift
Oh, right.
and keep that gift very small, as opposed to grabbing it and making it a part of their life. And what I found in my life is that the closer my relationship is with God, the greater my faith is. And I agree, it's a gift that He's given us, but we also have free will whether we use it or not, and to what extent we use it. So as we go out this week, I want you to take a look at what do you have faith in, and how deep is your faith with God? Look for ways to increase your faith in God this week. He's there for you, and He doesn't let you down. Your blessings are tied to your faith. I found that the greater my faith, the greater my blessings. Because again, it's up to me how much faith I have in God. And am I listening to that still small voice? So, thank you very much. Let's go on with our next song. Which is page 518, The Longer I Serve Him.